$1.87, that was all. 60 cents of it was in pennies, saved one by one through humiliating bargaining with the grocer, the vegetable seller, and the butcher. Della counted it 3 times to be sure. $1.87. The next day was Christmas. There was nothing to do but lie down on the shabby little couch and cry. So, Della did just that. This makes one reflect that life is made up of sobs, sniffles and smiles, with sniffles predominating. While the mistress of the home moves from the first stage to the second, let's take a look at the home. A furnished flat at $8 a week. It wasn't exactly a dump, but it was very close to being one. In the hallway below, there was a letterbox into which no letter had been dropped, and an electric bell that no mortal finger had rung. Next to it was a card bearing the name Mr. James Dillingham Young. The Dillingham had been added during a former period of prosperity when its owner was making $30 a week. But whenever Mr. James Dillingham came home, his wife, whom we have already met, would greet him with open arms and call him Jim. Della stopped crying and powdered her cheeks. Then she stood by the window, gazing out at a grey courtyard where a grey cat walked along the grey fence. Tomorrow would be Christmas, and she had only $1.87 with which to buy a present for Jim. She had been saving every penny for months for this gift. $20 a week wasn't much, and expenses had been greater than she expected. Life always has a way of turning out like that. Only $1.87 to buy a gift for her Jim. She had spent so many happy hours dreaming of what she might buy for him. Something fine, rare and sterling. Something worthy of being owned by Jim. There was a mirror between the 2 windows of the room. Perhaps you have seen such mirrors in $8 a week flats. A very thin and agile person might, by observing their reflection in a series of rapid, disconnected strips, acquire a fairly accurate idea of their appearance. Della, being slender, had mastered this art. Suddenly, she whirled away from the window and stood before the mirror. Her eyes were shining, but her face had lost its colour in the space of 20 seconds. She swiftly let down her hair. The James Dillingham Young household took great pride in 2 possessions. One was Jim's gold watch, which had been his father's and his grandfather's. The other was Della's hair. If the Queen of Sheba had lived in the flat across the street, Della would have let her hair hang out the window just to dry it, in order to reduce the Queen's jewels to insignificance. If King Solomon had been the janitor, with all his treasures piled up in the basement, Jim would have pulled out his watch every time he passed, just to make him jealous. Now Della's beautiful hair fell about her, rippling and shining like a cascade of brown waters. It reached below her knees and covered her like a garment. She gathered it nervously and quickly pinned it up again. For a moment she stood still while a tear or 2 splashed onto the worn carpet. Then she put on her old brown coat, put on her old brown hat, and with a brilliant sparkle still in her eyes, she dashed out the door and down the stairs to the street. She stopped at a shop over which was a sign that read, Madame Sofroni, hair goods of all kinds. Della ran up the stairs and collected herself, panting. "Will you buy my hair?" she asked the woman. "I buy hair," said Madame. "Take your hat off and let's have a look at it." Down rippled the brown cascade. Madame lifted the mass with a practised hand. $20, she said. "Give it to me quick," said Della. The next 2 hours flew by on rosy wings. She was on a mission to find Jim's gift. She found it at last. It surely had been made for Jim and no one else. There was nothing like it in any of the other shops, and she had turned every store inside out. It was a simple, elegant platinum fob chain, its value revealed by its substance alone, not by unnecessary ornamentation. It was perfect for Jim's watch. As soon as she saw it, she knew it had to be Jim's. It was like him, quiet and of great worth. She paid $21 for it and hurried home with 87 cents left. With that chain on his watch, Jim could be as proud as a king. Despite the splendour of the watch, he had always been embarrassed to take it out in public because of the old leather strap he used in place of a chain. When Della returned home, her excitement gave way to calm and rational thinking. She took out her curling irons and began to repair the devastation wrought by love and generosity. Dear friends, this is a very hard task indeed, perhaps the hardest. I hope Jim doesn't kill me on sight without taking a proper look at me, she thought. He's going to say I look like one of the chorus girls at Coney Island. But what could I do? What could I have done with $1.87? At 7 o'clock, the coffee was ready, and the pan, hot and waiting to cook the chops, was on the stove. Jim was never late. Della held the chain tightly in her hand and sat down on a chair by the door. When she heard her husband's footsteps approaching, her face turned pale. She often said short prayers for little things. Now, she whispered, please, God, make me still look pretty to him. The door opened, and Jim entered. He was thin and serious. Poor guy, he was only 22 and already burdened with the responsibility of supporting a household. He really needed a new coat, and he didn't even have gloves. Jim stopped at the door like a bird dog who had caught the scent of quail. Della was frightened because she couldn't understand the expression in his eyes. It wasn't anger, nor surprise, disappointment, horror, or any of the emotions she had expected. Jim just stood there, staring at her with that strange expression on his face, without moving. Della moved toward her husband. Jim, darling, please don't look at me like that. I couldn't bear to go through Christmas without giving you a gift, so I sold my hair. It will grow back. It's not a big deal, right? I had to do it. My hair grows really fast. Come on, Jim. Wish me a Merry Christmas now. You can't imagine how wonderful the gift I got you is. Jim, still struggling to comprehend, asked with difficulty, You cut your hair? I did, and I sold it. Don't you love me as much anymore? It's just my hair that's gone, that's all. Am I not still the same Della? Jim looked around blankly. Your hair is gone, huh? He said, still in disbelief. Don't bother looking for it. I told you it's sold. It's Christmas Eve, Jim. Please don't be mad at me. I cut it off for you. Then, with sudden sweetness, she added, Maybe my hair can be counted, but my love for you is immeasurable. She smiled softly. Shall I put the chops on the fire, darling? Jim snapped out of his daze. He embraced Della. Let's leave them alone for a moment while they gaze into each other's eyes. Whether you earn $8 a week or $1 million a year, does it really matter? A mathematician or a wise man might give you a wrong answer. Even among the gifts brought by the wise men of the East, you won't find an answer to this. But this will be explained shortly. Jim pulled a package from his coat pocket and tossed it on the table. Don't think anything bad of me, Della. There's no haircut in the world that would make me love you less. But if you open that package, you'll understand why I was so surprised just now. With trembling fingers, Della tore off the strings and paper. Then came a wild scream of joy, followed by hysterical sobs that poor Jim had to exert all his strength to calm. There on the table lay the combs Della had admired for so long in a shop window. Real tortoiseshell with jewelled edges, combs that matched the colour of her now gone hair perfectly. Della had longed for those combs, knowing they were too expensive to even dream of owning one day, and now she had them. But alas, her hair, which the combs were meant for, was no more. She held the combs to her chest, looked up at Jim with tearful eyes, and a smile lighting her face. My hair grows so fast, Jim. Suddenly, Della jumped like a cat with its tail on fire. Oh! Oh! Jim hadn't yet seen the gift she had gotten him. She held out her hand with the precious item she had worked so hard to buy. The metal seemed to glow with its own spirit and warmth. Isn't it beautiful, Jim? I had to search the whole city to find it. Now you can look at your watch 100 times a day. Hand me your watch. Let's see how it looks on it. Jim sat down on the couch, leaned back with his hands behind his head, and smiled at his wife. Del, let's put our Christmas gifts away for now. They're both too nice to use just yet. I sold my watch to buy those combs for you. Now, how about you put those chops on the stove? You see, the wise men who brought gifts to the baby Jesus were very, very wise men. They were the ones who invented the art of giving Christmas gifts, and being wise, their gifts were undoubtedly appropriate for the one they were brought to. Here, I've told the story of two foolish young people who sacrificed the greatest treasures of their house for each other. But among today's wise men, there's no one who could give a more appropriate gift than this couple did. Everywhere it's the same. The truly valuable people are these.